Our mission is to build financial internet, which means that all accounting systems will have open APIs, and these APIs will be uniform.
Hi everybody, this is Value.Tokenized with Crypto Twins. In this episode, we're discussing the use cases for tokenization with Pavel Kravchenko, the mastermind behind Distributed Lab, who are building the financial internet of the future. Hi Pavel, thank you so much for joining us today at Value.Tokenized. It's a pleasure to have you here. My first question will be about your background. So, according to your LinkedIn, your first experience in blockchain industry was as a cryptographer and Stellar. And was Stellar your first introduction to blockchain, or how did you first get acquainted with this topic? And what made you so passionate about this field?
I used to build security applications long before that. So I worked for security companies in Ukraine, was a developer of backend and mobile applications. And then I was kind of bored with outsourcing job and decided to move to Silicon Valley. And the first, I knew about Bitcoin obviously, but I wasn't really interested. And then I met a guy who was doing a Bitcoin startup. So he invited me and said, we need some expert in cryptography. And that kind of started my involvement. So I read within like a week, I read like 10 papers on this topic, including the original white paper. Then I kind of managed to speak at the local meetup about cryptography, and I was invited to Stellar at the same meetup, basically in the break. So that's how it's all started.
And we have a question from Tony, our co-founder, who you know. In 2014, you founded Distributed Lab. Can you tell us more about the mission and values, and how do you see this company shaping the world and blockchain field in the next 5-10 years?
What we envision. Our mission is to build financial internet, which means that all accounting systems will have open APIs, and these APIs will be uniform. So it doesn't imply that there will be a single blockchain everywhere and something like that. It just means that you can have like a browser on your phone, and this browser will be able to access all accounting systems and hold all your assets in one place. So exactly the same as with internet. When you have a phone, any kind of device, you can install any browser on any hardware device, and you can access any website. So the same should happen with accounting systems in general. So that's our vision. It's very simple. It's very down to earth. It doesn't say anything about smart contracts or tokens or blockchains. It's like as simple as it sounds. And then sending money or any other assets like stocks, bonds, or commodities will be as simple as sending a message on Facebook.
But yet, you didn't mention this in your vision, but the infrastructure that you're building is now one of the core elements of, for example, security token ecosystem that's being built worldwide. How did you enter this field? When did you realize that what you're building is a right fit for this industry?
In order to make this future happen, you need to digitize all the assets. And tokenization is exactly a digitization, just another word for that. It's almost another word for that. So when we saw that the world started to be excited about tokenization, we jumped into it and took a flag and started to work on digitization of assets. And most of the assets that you're tokenizing are securities eventually. So you need to prepare your infrastructure for that from the beginning. So that's what we did.
And I have just one more question. You're very active in educational activities, for example. You wrote a book about blockchain. you organize multiple events and educational courses in Ukraine and worldwide. What do you think is most appealing to the wider audience, and what it gets to get the wider audience excited about this technology for it to spread worldwide and to actually improve the world?
Obviously, people are interested, most of them, how to make money on that, and they believe that all tokens will grow, which obviously is not true. And I believe that the word token should not be used at all, because token is just a technical term. People misunderstood what it means. They think it's a financial instrument that is kind of growing, but it is just a technical term for the way to manage accounts. So it used to be that people had paper books to write accounts, who owns what. Then they used Microsoft MySQL databases or Excel. And now it's just the time when we have to switch to fully digitized infrastructure that uses cryptography to protect security of accounts. So it was paper, then it was administrators, now it's cryptography. And a good example is Bitcoin, because it has no security administrators, it has no firewalls, it has no physical like walls, and it's secure. You cannot steal all the Bitcoins one at a time. And it means the same principles will be applied to all other registries of ownership. And it will make them much cheaper to maintain. So that's what we should do. And it means tokenization because, yes, the account is managed through a cryptographic key, and the technical term is correct, but we should not talk about tokens from the business or user perspective. These are the same assets that we used to have. So this is, if it's tokenized gold, it's still gold. It's not a token. If it's tokenized share, it is a share. If it's tokenized money, it is money. So we will touch the topic of Facebook, I hope. And it's not a Facebook token. It's dollar. Mm-hmm. It's dollar where Facebook is a bank for such a dollar. That's it.
Yeah, we'll certainly later touch the topic of Facebook. But also, talking about tokenization, a lot of people right now who are kind of jumping in this market, they're talking about how tokenization will transform crowdfunding market, for example. And on your LinkedIn, I came across your post, your opinion that there will be no transformation, that the market is the same. So what is your outtake on the words about democratization of this markets that tokenization can potentially bring?
What we see is that technology is transforming the way how people interact with systems. It won't quickly transform the way how people trust certain things or how people behave. So from one perspective, tokenization doesn't produce anything new in crowdfunding. It's just the same crowdfunding. In all STOs, they are made under some variation of the crowdfunding law. No difference. But the easiness of and security of IT infrastructure makes onboarding faster, cheaper, and introduces new possibilities for the secondary market. So it just becomes much easier to use. It's like, imagine the time when it was only BlackBerry. Who had BlackBerry? Only like business people because of security reasons, and it wasn't really, it was a piece of shit, right, to use it. And Symbian and all of that. And then the iPhone made it right, and everybody uses smartphones now. So it's about technology and about design. And the same thing will happen with crowdfunding because of these technologies. But again, it doesn't mean that everybody will be able to participate, because the crowdfunding laws appeared not out of blue sky, but because people are really bad in investment decisions if they don't have any education. And the ICO hype showed that. I remember in 2017, I talked everywhere, every day, that ICO is like very close to scam. Not just because like people were bad who did that. Many of them were bad. But because when an investor doesn't understand what he or she is buying, it is bad immediately, because they will be much there'll be the field for fraud.
Yeah.
So investors indeed thought that they're buying something that will grow. Startups basically fuel this thing, thought, but startups told regulator that this is just a utility token. It's just used for usage. It's not intended to be investment instrument, but investors were buying this for one reason, not for usage. Nobody's using utility tokens. They're only using it for investment, for trading. So that was bad thing when you have such a misalignment of interests between all the people. So that's the problem. That's why regulation, in some way, self-regulation, or just clear statement about what is happening is very important.
So in your opinion, it's not about creation of new industries, but making the existing ones more seamless and frictionless with help of new technology.
But if we are talking about fully permissionless infrastructure, this is about the creation of a new industry, for sure. So what we see now is the creation of a parallel economy, real cryptocurrencies or decentralized autonomous organizations. They represent the new economies that is not playing according to the rules of the old economy. I mean, it may play according to the same economic rules, but it's definitely new social rules and new governance rules, etc., and political and monetary. But economy is still economy.
And the Distributed Lab website states, among other, that tokenization brings new features to an asset that were not inherent before. What exactly are those features that this technology can introduce?
These features would be seamless integration between different ecosystem players. Just an example, one of the reasons of crisis of 2008 was that nobody knew how many of the financial instruments were issued and how many of them were traded. Because everything was based on the amount of loans that were given to homeowners. So you build certain amount of homes, you provide loans, and these loans are securitized, they're bundled, they're split into pieces, they're sold to investors in all over the world. And the total market of these derivatives was growing so fast that nobody knew whether they are really backed by anything and really backed by really anything worth this money. So in the existing world, accounting and of all the assets is really bad, because if you have two accounting systems, currently they are kind of independent, they are not synchronized, and that's why we have the many jokes about accountants and about tax accountants, that you never know how much apples were transferred from this warehouse to that warehouse, and this accounting system may not represent that. So what should happen is that we have to have the same view, everybody should have the same view on how many assets precisely sit in different custodians. So there will be no gap, information gap. This is the completely new feature, and this feature leads to much higher trust between everybody.
Yeah.
So the assets will not be able to disappear or like untraceable, or etc. It will be much easier. This is the most important feature, transparency of all financial operations. And obviously, when you have full transparency, the crowdfunding becomes much easier. Then the decision making becomes much easier, because it also applies not just to assets but to votes, which is also an asset. And you can build societies where, like, you don't need a single guy making all the decisions who will be re-elected every 5 years. It will be like a little bit better.
And there's another use case for tokenization, and Token D provides a solution for that. That is tokenization of vouchers and loyalty. Can you also share your view about this?
Yeah, I think that's a good use case for one reason. First of all, because people really need digital infrastructure for all of these assets. And currently, this industry is underserved because historically, all these digital technologies were brought first like into financial sphere where it's much well funded, like banks and payment systems. And retail lacks convenient tools yet. Second thing is that they are not regulated as hard as traditional financial instruments. And third is that there is no secondary market for such things. So, for example, if I've given the voucher for a free, I don't know, massage, but I have no time, I can give it to somebody else in a digital form. And right now, it's just a little bit not as easy as sending again an email or sending you some money, etc. Just infrastructure is still lacking. So tokenization of these things will happen for sure, but I believe we should not talk to businesses about tokens, sure, about blockchain, about smart contracts, about anything that is harder than the voucher. What we can say is that indeed this infrastructure is secure and the owner of the system has full control, and the owner of the system is able to set up all the rules and can provide access to auditor if needed, and it will be seamless. It doesn't need to be like that auditor comes, sits there for 5 days, stops all business operations. So such simple words as digital, like wallets, transfers, maybe crowdfunding, yeah. So when, for example, you open, let's take an example with massage. You are in a salon and you want to buy a new chair for massage, right? And you ask your clients, please crowdfund the purchase of this special equipment, and we will provide you with 50% discount for the massage on this chair, right? So, and that's will be as simple as that. So and it will be traced who invested how much and who is entitled to receive these services later.
So nobody needs to know that it's blockchain.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's like, do you know which standard of wave technology is used here? Nobody knows. Really, nobody knows. And it still works, and you don't care. And no, there are no conferences, mass market conferences about radio wave technologies, or about 4G, or even about C++, which is used heavily in here. So there are no mass conferences. People talk about internet applications.
And as for applications, a lot of people are working on tokenization of a variety of assets, including real estate and art. And what is your personal most exciting, most intriguing application for you that has not been executed yet that you could think of?
Again, I want to have all my assets in a digital wallet. When it happens, it will be so natural, people will not believe how it didn't exist before. Like for me personally, I still want to have digital payment that is accessible, that is secure, and I can pay anybody in the world. So for now, like pay for my tickets, because it's always pain in the ass when you use credit card.
I think I have just one more question for today about Facebook and Libra cryptocurrency. In your opinion, is it most important for the crypto world, or this particular use case has the potential to disrupt and bring blockchain to the masses? What's your outtake on this entire initiative? Yeah, as you said, that it's not actually cryptocurrency, basically, but it's a dollar. But still, what impact it will have what impact it will have on the future of financial world that you also are trying to build from your part.
Indeed, I was talking a long time ago about that it makes sense to create a global bank who will serve everybody on the planet. And the only difference from the situation of now is that opening an account will be online.
Mhm.
The rest is already there. Just KYC is not yet online. So in all this movement with stable coins is kind of implying that people are using it online and there is no need to come physically to some place. So what are the benefits? And this is when everybody promotes their own crypto or their own stablecoin, they imply this, that if we all open an account in a single bank in the world, obviously the transfers will be free. There will be no problem. There will be no SWIFT, no delays, and it's that simple. But for some reason, people don't have one single bank in the world. These reasons are obviously security and control and everything. But it will be very convenient, super convenient. And PayPal kind of failed on that because the PayPal money are not accepted widely.
Yeah.
If Facebook introduces that, 2 billion users immediately trusted, Visa on board, whatever, then it will become it will be dollar, and Facebook will become a bank. So it's very convenient, and I will use that. But from the privacy perspective, obviously it's not great, and from the national independence is very bad. Because imagine that if some country with weak politicians, with weak power, will let their users to use that, people will not need the national currency then. Just it will be hard to convince them, and another government will basically take control over this government, and that will happen for sure. So we just have like meta-national states now, and because internet sphere is taking everything from our lives, and it's nature. What should happen at the end is that we have to bring control back to people. In a way, how financial internet works, we need to decentralize the access to infrastructure. So not just one company has access to it, but everybody who wants to have it, and that's it. And then, like, people will decide whom they trust and whom they want to use.
Okay, thank you very much. It was very interesting to listen to you. Thank you for sharing and for being with us at Value.Tokenized.
Thank you.
This was Value.Tokenized. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions to Pavel, feel free to leave them in comments. And don't forget to subscribe.